Hello, folks. Welcome back to Fearless Frank Reviews. Today, we're not going to talk about a film. No, we are not. Instead of which, we are going to talk about a film series that was doomed. That came out in the late 2000s, had a lot of promise, but in the end, flopped hard. Yeah. We're going to take a look at the Halloween films. No, we're not talking about the current films that came out and ended a couple of years ago. No, those were good. The original films themselves are also good. We're instead going to talk about the remakes from the 2000s and onward. Because of the success of horror films such as Texas Chainsaw Massacre and several other films that came out around that point in time, instead of which, we're going to talk about the Halloween remakes that Rob Zombie directed. And there's a slight problem with that. There's more than one version, apparently. Yeah, there's two cuts in each one. And it is beyond fucking frustrating. So, am I going to do the first one? Am I going to do the second one? No. I'm doing both of them. Yeah. We're doing 4 fucking movies. Yeah. The original theatrical cuts and the director's cut versions. I'm not really happy about this, folks. So, let's dive into the Rob Zombie Halloween films. Fuck. Okay. Now, to be fair, when I was a teenager, throughout high school, I did enjoy the slasher film genre. I mean, I was getting older, and as far as horror films are concerned, I was enjoying the slasher film genre. And of course, Freddy vs. Jason was a huge hit from a lot of teens. But one other film that came out, well, a little before that was actually the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which many of the students actually did watch, even though we weren't supposed to. But hey, we were in high school. We did not give a shit. It was hardcore and it was hardcore horror and risky and gory as hell. Although the original one was surprisingly not that gory. Yeah, despite the name of it being called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it was less gory than imagined. Yeah, yeah. The sequels, on the other hand, actually had a decent amount of gore. The remake, they went a little overboard. Yeah, like a lot. So, where did that leave us with the Halloween remakes? Well, bit of a fun fact. Originally, Rob Zombie did not want to do these films at all because he had his own variation of the films would have gone, but the fan base probably wouldn't have liked it. And he was right. Though, to be fair, Rob Zombie has stated he actually has put down the films as much as everybody else has because, well, in his opinion, too, people have their own opinions, and of course, he just did his variation of what the films would have been like if he directed it, though. Because of the success of the House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects, 2 films I have not seen yet, though I've been told I should probably watch them because I'm a horror fan. So I'll get around to them eventually. But let's just talk about these 2 particular movies. All right. Now, to be fair, everybody has both of disapproves about these movies. Now, Halloween itself was highly anticipated, and of course, the theme song came out before the movie came out, and everybody heard how much darker it originally was, and how much more intensive it was. So that means this movie was going to be darker and much more intense than the original one was. With a classic horror film like Halloween, how could this be even more darker and more intense? Well, Rob Zombie did find one way or another, and so the original film came out, and it surprisingly did pretty well. But when the director's cut version came out on Blu-ray, well, it shocked everybody else because there was more stuff that it was removed, and yeah, there was one thing in particular everybody hated in the movie and in the director's cut version. But Rob Zombie has concluded the fact that that person, that the victim in that scene has survived. Yeah. And the sequel, highly anticipated, biggest letdown ever in film history. Like, seriously. Oh my god. The one scene that really that turned me off, like it was in the beginning of the movie where this guy was driving one of these two paramedics are driving Michael's corpse out of the out of town, and they actually hit something, and this guy's head out the window, and he's bleeding out, and he's going fuck, fuck, fuck. This goes on for 5 fucking minutes, dude. Shut the fuck up. Seriously, just oh, and when Michael finally kills the guy, he rips the guy's head off. I'm like, dude, you know what I would have done? Okay, look, here's what I would have done as a director. I would have had Michael rip the guy's lower jaw off and smash his head in with the lower jaw. Just give it everybody a much more satisfying kill. Why? Because that scene with him just yelling out "fuck" and considering how perverted the son of a bitch was beforehand, you'll be thanking me for that. Yeah. Oh Christ. Oh, yeah. But let's talk about how the storyline goes with the first movie itself. The first movie is basically like a complete remake of the original film. Only we get to see more of Michael Myers when he was just a young kid and his dark, disturbing turn that he was just a mentally disturbed kid and going around butchering small animals, killing small little mice, gerbils, anything. And of course, he had a really dark side to him. And of course, he gets bullied a lot, and he got done getting bullied a lot. And eventually, he does kill one of his bullies. Wow. That's okay, you know what? I wouldn't say that's actually disturbing, considering the fact that kid has been bullying him for years. It was gonna happen sooner or later, all right? So I wouldn't really chalk that up as like a murder spree. No. However, we do meet Sam Lewis, played by Malcolm McDowell, which, joking aside, was actually really good casting. All right, he's really good. All right, Malcolm McDowell actually brought some class to the character, at least in the first movie. That is, yeah. The sequel, he's an asshole. And yeah, believe it or not, in the sequel, there was actually an interview he did with this one talk show host. I forgot who it was, but there's also Weird Al Yankovic with him, and they're actually making the Michael Myers Mike Myers comparison. I don't know why it was just ridiculous, but also there was a film that I think I forgot what the name of the movie was that Jamie Foxx was in, but you know the scene I'm talking about, right? Where basically they were about to rob a bank and they were supposed to dress up as Michael Myers. They're supposed to get Michael Myers mask, but one of the guys screwed up and got Mike Myers mask instead. It was just, it's hilarious. But it's even more funny is because the director called up Mike Myers himself to ask if they could do that. And he said, "You know what? That'd be great. Do it, do it." Oh yeah, seeing Weird Al Yankovic do it, and in this movie, it's cringeworthy. Doing it in an action film, it's fucking hilarious. However, we do get to the fact that Dr. Loomis thinks that there is something disturbing about Michael, and he wants to commit him right away. Of course, Sherry Moon Zombie, being Michael's mother, doesn't actually approve of any of this. And we do get to see Michael's family interact. Well, we have a drunk stepdad who's a hillbilly asshole. Not surprising. And eventually, well, okay, the daughter's boyfriend comes along and was supposed to take him out. The daughter, aka the sister, was supposed to take him out trick or treating. Judith Myers. Nope, she just smokes dope and actually gets banged by her boyfriend while Michael just sits there contemplating. He loses his shit and finally took. He loses his shit and kills his stepfather in a well, psychologically, I would say this was a preemptive style of murder. But considering how abusive the sack of shit was, it's not surprising that this didn't happen sooner or later. And also the fact that the whole town rips on Michael Myers because his mother is a stripper doesn't really help that much either. So yeah, Michael kills his stepfather. He kills his sister's boyfriend, and then he kills his sister. Now, what's surprising in this version is that they actually get to see Michael's younger sister, Laurie Strode, but they changed but we don't know what the hell Laurie Strode's original name was. So this movie kind of gave us a bit of a like an answer. However, it's weird because in both versions, in both director's cut and theatrical cut versions in the sequels, well, the first movie she's called Boo, but in the sequel she's called Angel. it's beyond confusing. So Michael is committed. Loomis tries his best to try to get through him, like we heard him say in the original film. However, we see Michael actually go berserk and actually stab a nurse, and he loses his will to speak. Now there is a janitor who actually befriends Michael, who's played by Danny Trejo, which, joking aside, is the most tragic character in the entire fucking movie because you really feel bad for this guy. All right, he basically is the only friend Michael has had. But when Michael actually goes on his rampage at the asylum and killing all the guards and everybody, yeah. When he gets to Danny Trejo's death, it's like you really feel sorry for this guy. Like he was Michael's true friend, but Michael's evil. Just yeah. Speaking of that the asylum escape scene, this happened like the day that Loomis said that he's no longer going to be Michael's doctor, but he wrote a book on the whole subject, though, which of course a lot of people were pissed about that. Because he knows for a fact that Michael cannot be salvaged. All right. Here's the thing: we're introduced to another janitor who's a real sack of shit, and of course he makes fun of Michael Myers all the time. Now, here's the thing: this is where people were split about this movie. All right, in the theatrical version, Michael is actually escorted out by a bunch of guards, where of course Michael kills them mercilessly. But in the original version, yeah, that sack of shit janitor. Yeah, you really want to kill the son. You really want to go full Jason Voorhees or Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers on this motherfucker for what he did. All right, he and his buddy actually actually tease Michael Myers, open his cell, grab a female inmate, and start raping her on Myers' bed. Yeah, that is like the most horrific scene you can see in the entire movie, and of course, it's one of the scenes that a lot of people hated throughout the entire movie. But to be fair, Michael kills those two mercilessly. Like he doesn't hold back on this one. And yes, the girl is fine. She's the only one that survived. Yeah, apparently she's one of the only victims that Michael Myers came across that survived. So this was confirmed that she's alive. Yeah. And the second part of the movie, well, where it feels more like the original Halloween, yeah. Here's the strange part: in the theatrical cut version, it's played down a bit more, but in this version, it's played out longer, like it's a completely different movie altogether. It's like, what? You got to be kidding me! It's played out much longer than expected, and it draws out more of the storyline. As crazy as it sounds, you much rather watch that entire second half. Just skip over all that crap and the rapes and the horrific scene, and just get to the part where Michael escapes gets his costume and everything. Other than that, it's like word by word, almost identical to the original film, but with key differences. Like the deaths are much more brutal. Michael actually kills the entire Strode family mercilessly, like not even joking. And the sheriff's daughter is played by Danielle Harris. Yeah. Brad Dourif, who you may know as the voice of Chucky, plays the sheriff in this one, and not gonna lie, he's actually one of the best things in this movie too, aside from Michael McDowell. Like, arguably, Brad Dourif's acting in this movie, in this film series, is top notch. He's like the only him and Malcolm McDowell are like the only reasons why I even bother watching these fucking movies. Yeah, even Malcolm McDowell playing an asshole in the second movie, it's still good. Like he's an asshole, but I like watching him in the movie being an asshole because it's Malcolm McDowell. He can make it work. Yeah. I mean, you ever see him in The Clockwork Orange? Holy shit! The first half of the movie, he's a real asshole. Even when he's turning into a victim at the end of the movie, he's fucking amazing. I mean, I don't really like A Clockwork Orange, but still, he's the reason why I fucking watched it. Although I really couldn't stand his Cockney accent, I had to have I really had to have the subtitles on so I could figure out what the fuck he was saying. I mean, seriously, all the slang, I mean, all the Cockney slangs, it was just too much for me. Yeah. But Daniel Harris playing the sheriff's daughter, last we saw, she was playing Jamie Lloyd, Michael's niece. But now she's in this movie, and we see her naked in some scenes. It's like, I don't know about you guys. As hot as she is, this still feels kind of wrong. I mean, the last time we saw her in a Halloween film, she was just a little she was just a little kid. Now she's a full-fledged adult playing a teenager. What? Okay, to give Michael some credit, he doesn't actually kill her in the first film at all. He does in the sequel, though. Yeah. Now, so yeah. Oh boy. Hmm. Anyway, Scout Taylor Compton, who plays Laurie Strode. Yeah, in the first movie, she's okay. Yeah, she's okay, but in the second movie, she goes full fucking goth mode. It goes rebellious goth mode because she had survived a horrible event by Michael Myers. Right, the entire first movie, like I said, is almost paint by numbers close to the original, but with some differences. Like the scenes go longer and the terror sequences last longer because it's a remake. And the movie ends with Laurie shooting Michael in the face, and the movie just ends with her covered in blood, screaming her lungs out. And the second movie, well, things get really more fucked up. It goes further more into psychological problems. Like, Michael is not even in his costume throughout most of the second movie. He's like a hillbilly. He's like a hillbilly dressed up as Bigfoot most of the time too, sporting a full beard. In fact, we see more of his face more in the second movie, but it's like covered in a beard, and we see that he's still human. But when you look into his eyes, it's like he's not exactly human anymore. So yeah, and eventually Loomis is actually all in star power at this point though, but as the film progresses, he understands that Michael Myers is still alive, and he goes to where the police are. The police at this point, after Michael goes on a complete killing spree as Hillbilly Myers, really did not think I was ever going to say that, but yeah, I did. I'm sorry, I can't get over the fact that I said Hillbilly Myers because that's so ridiculous. Ugh. So yeah, after the complete killing spree and after the death of the death of the sheriff's daughter this time around, yeah, the cops go full on. Let's kill Michael Myers once and for all. Laurie is gone completely insane. Is going completely insane because she's having visions of everything. But when she figures out she's actually Michael's real sister, she goes ballistically insane. So she actually starts seeing ghosts of the young Michael and her mother. But here's the thing: in the theatrical cut version, the finale is very weird. It's like, okay, Laurie, are you on drugs or something? What the fuck is going on here? All right, and the movie ends with with Michael stabbing Loomis, and everybody all the deputies gun down Michaels, and he finally dies. Laurie, in a complete haze, comes up out of nowhere, picks up the knife, and they gun her down by accident. So the movie ends with her in a fucking insane asylum. So that's basically how the theatrical cut version went. But the director's cut version is even more fucked up. We actually see for a fact that she's actually paralyzed with fear. And while Michael actually tackles Loomis out, and they bring him outside, where he finally takes his mask off, and we finally hear Michael talk after all these years. And Loomis is basically screaming at Michael to stop, and we finally hear Michael say, "Die!" And he stabs him to death. And of course, the ending still sort of plays out. The movie basically ends in both versions with Laurie actually in a mental asylum where she sees a white pony and her mother going around, and she gives an evil smile, hinting at that she's released. She's going to continue killing. Yeah, families for yeah, family is forever. Bullshit. Yeah, they should have just did a straight up remake of the original Halloween too, but they went way overboard with this version. So that is literally how the Rob Zombie films are. All right. When people say the only ones they can stomach is the first one, there's a problem with it though. Because of the fact that the first one actually has two different versions of it though. Like where Michael actually escapes in the original in this version is fine, but in this version, it's gut wrenching and nobody likes it. So, but in the second part of the movie in the director's cut version, it's clear to say they put more effort into trying to make it more like the original Halloween. Just make it more graphic. So, yeah. There's even fan edits of the film online. There's two particular fan edits I actually found on YouTube where they cut the entire first part of the movie so short that the rest of the movie is just him escaping from the mental asylum. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm more than okay with that. In fact, if I I'm not joking here. And if I had my version of the movie, how I could salvage this film, here's what I would have done. I would have digitally copied both the films on my computer, download the entire soundtrack, and resound some sequences, and of course, and rescore it with the original, rescore it with the themes from this film series as well. But have the entire first sequence of like Michael as a kid cut under 10 minutes. Yeah, anything under 10 minutes or even 5 minutes would have been my version of the movie, and the rest of the film is just Michael escaping from the asylum from this version of the film, and the rest of it, the second half, from this version. All right, so like I said, just rescore it, deletes, and of course fix up the ending credits just a little bit, and that is it. All right, that would have been my take on how to make a Halloween film directed by Rob Zombie, edited by Ferox Frank. But that's how I would have done the. That's how I would have edited the film. But hey, nowadays people still edit the shit out of this movie, regardless. And you know what? Sometimes the edited versions are way better than the actual versions that came out. And that says a lot. It says a lot. Oh, anyway, that was a huge mouthful. Don't worry. The next time I talk about a Halloween film, we're going to talk about a good Halloween movie. But until then, I figured next film review, let's talk about a skull that screams. This is Ferox Frank signing out.